So this is my first time making a video, and I just wanted to talk about a book, any book, like any book I just like to read. So I just wanted to talk about a lot of books, and I will start with the one that I'm currently reading. So I'm going to talk about this one here. It's The Book Thief. So when I first read this book, started this book, I didn't like it. Really, I just got bored of after reading first chapter. I just couldn't read it anymore. So I left it for a long time, but I started again because I just started it, so I couldn't just drop it. So I just started it again, and when I reached to the second chapter, I must say that I was hooked. Like I really liked this book. It is interesting. It got interesting from second chapter for me. First chapter I found that very boring, though second chapter made me like, okay, this is a nice book. I must give it a try. So I'm going to tell you about the book and what I liked about this book. So let's start, I hope. So this is a book called The Book Thief, and it's written by Marcus Zuzek. I guess that's how you pronounce it because I cannot pronounce it. I just cannot pronounce it better than this. So let me start it. So I'm not gonna tell you about acknowledgement and that things. Just start with prologue. So in the prologue it's written a mountain range of rubble or rubble, I don't know. Again, it's a pronunciation problem. So it's in which our narrator introduces himself, the colors, and the book thief. So the book thief is a character, and it's going to appear in the upcoming chapters, and it is going to be in the prologue. So we are talking about here narrator. We will know who is the narrator, and then the colors and the book thief here. So let's get to the first chapter. So the first chapter that I couldn't read, and I had to read it twice or thrice, I guess, to understand what it is saying, was Death and Chocolate. So first chapter was really hard to understand for me at first because I really couldn't get it to my head, like what it's saying. I just couldn't understand what it was trying to say. So the first chapter is Death and Chocolate, and in it we are getting the introduction of the narrator. So the introduction starts with first the colors, then the humans. That's usually how I see things, or at least how I try. So narrator is telling us about himself. You know, he is telling us about himself in the first chapter, Death and Chocolate. And see, here he writes. This writer writes these kind of notes, small notes here, and in it, first is here is a small fact: you are going to die. So it was really, I really couldn't understand in my first try that what it was going to, what it was gonna say. I really couldn't understand. So the first thing is, in this chapter we are going to know that the narrator is actually Death. Death is narrating this story, not a human, but Death is telling the story of the book thief through his eyes. You know, what he saw, what he felt, and how he saw book thief, how he met book thief. This is all the story is about. So at first chapter he's telling us that he is Death, and how is he. So he says here, he is cheerful and amiable, that we can love him, and he agrees to us. And he just asks us to don't ask him to be nice. You know, he is saying here nice has nothing to do with me. So he's basically telling us that he is not nice. He can be anything, but he is not nice to us. So this is the first introduction of Death, and then he randomly tells a fact here that he tells us that we shouldn't be afraid of him. You know, does this worry you? Is he but it's asking to us that are we worrying because of him? And he is telling us to not to be afraid of him, and he is telling I am nothing if not fair. So death is telling us that it is fair. If anything, we shouldn't worry because it will give justice, that it is fair. It's not gonna do wrong or injustice to anyone. So we shouldn't be scared of him. He is fair to all of us. That's what death is saying to us. And here are some lines. Of course, an introduction, a beginning, and where are my manners. So it is a kind of funny, that death is telling us where are my manners. I should give my introduction here. So here he introduces himself. I could introduce myself properly, but it's not really necessary. So he's telling us that he could have introduced himself at first, but he doesn't think it's necessary. Not us, but he thinks that introducing himself is not necessary. Will know me well enough and soon enough, depending on a diverse range of variables. And he is telling us that even if he doesn't introduces himself to us, either way we are going to meet him, and anyway we will see who is he. So he has no need to introduce himself to us, as we are going to see anyway. It suffices to say that at some point in time I will be standing over you as genuinely as possible. Your soul will be in my arms, a color will be perched on my shoulder. I will carry you gently away. So here is a death is telling us that I guess he can see colors of souls. So death is going to come for all of us, and we will meet him one day, is what he is saying. And every soul is gonna be go with him anyway. That's why he doesn't feels like introducing himself. So here he gives a small theory. People observe the colors of a day only at its beginnings and ends, but to me it's quite clear that a day merges through a multitude of shades and intonations with each passing moment. So he's just saying that we humans can see less colors than him, type of thing. He's saying that we cannot. He, I guess, he just wants to say that he. What should we say here? He notices everything. He notices every color there. They're like we are busy, and of course we don't pay attention to everything. But that is saying that I guess he's saying that he pays attention to every color and everything. A single hour can consist of thousands of different colors: waxy yellows, cloud spread blues, murky darkness. In my line of work, I make it a point to notice them. So he is telling us that we see just colors at a particular time, but he is watching it. He is saying that every hour, even an hour, has different colors, at every point. So he, as death, notices it more than us, and probably I guess it's because he is always at his work, so he obviously sees that more than us. And in the ending of the first chapter, he tells us that he is going to tell us a story about the book thief. I must say, there is the first introduction of the book thief in the first chapter, when he tells that he is dead. Then he is telling us that what he is going to do. He's busy. He's saying us he's busy, very busy with his work. But instead of that, a girl was there, and who got his what was it? Who got his attention, and now he just wanted to tell his story. It's just a small story, really, about amongst other things, like not only the girl, but he's saying that it's not only about the girl, but there are many things, like he has given points here: a girl, some words, an accordionist, some fanatical Germans, a Jewish fist fighter, and quite a lot of thievery. So there will be theft and all, because it's book thief obviously. So book thief is a girl, and there will be words as there will be books, so obviously there will be words, and Germans, Jews, and accordionist. I saw the book thief 3 times. So here at the ending line that tells us that he saw book thief 3 times, and I am going to assure you that these 3 times are going to be too amazing, because I haven't even finished this book, but I just, when I'm reading these chapters, I cannot tell you, because the whole story comes up in a circle, that if you will come back to the first or second or third chapters, you will really, it will blow your mind, because in first and second and third chapter he is really telling us the ending scenes, and in ending scenes he is just detailing the story in the first or second third chapters, and it really blowed my mind up. So everything in the first second third chapters is going to come again at the ending. It all is going to come back at the circle. So it's a really amazing story. Stay with me. So let us move on to the next chapter. This is the chapter that really hooked me to this book. I really liked this book from this chapter. As I have told you before, that I couldn't understand what it was saying in the first chapter, so I left it, just dropped it. And then again, I tried to go to the next chapter, and I just thought that at least I should go to the next chapter, and like that, if I even don't like the book, I should give it a try. So when I reached the second chapter, it's beside the railway line, and this is the chapter that I felt, wow, like I should give it a try, dude. This is really a good book, and this can be a good story if I read this. And obviously I haven't seen its reviews and anything. I just picked it up and started it, so I didn't know how this book was. So the second chapter is what really hooked me up to this book. And in the second chapter, the book thief is, I guess, seen by the death for the first time. And in this chapter, it's I'm sorry for the noises, I cannot stop that, so I'm sorry for them. So let's go to this chapter. So in this chapter, the book thief was introduced was in the first chapter, but in the second chapter, death saw book thief for the first time, I guess. So uh, first, there is a note, a reassuring announcement. Please be calm despite the previous threat. I am all bluster. I am not violent. I am not malicious. I am a result. So, here Death is telling us that as people call it violent or malicious or anything, it's not that. It's all bluster of people. He is not like that. He is not a threat or anything to us. He is just a result of life, or I guess this is what he is going to say, that he is a result of life, of birth, I guess. So as I can tell, I don't think that death is violent or malicious. I do think that it's just a result. So here, every time I read this, I just feel like that it's not death saying it. At first chapters, I really thought that, but going through the chapters, I started smiling whenever it called itself death. I was just like, it's a human writing a book. It was kind of like that for me. I just couldn't take it as death. I just know that there are human emotions, and I just don't think death can feel them. So whenever he talks like that, I just go like, this is a opinion of a human also, about death. Maybe I think death will be so calm, like no emotions and all, nothing. So I don't think it will have emotions for anyone. And in this second chapter, so the book thief, death meets book thief at a railway station, So it's kind of like thing, book thief is going with her mom and her brother. So for the first time, he doesn't tells us like, At first railway station, he just describes it. It was a really amazing. I could see it with my own eyes. I guess I just felt like I am watching the whole scene that the narrator was describing, that the book thief was just standing in snow and there was a dead body and two guards, and he looked book thief eye into eye, and she was cold and this type of things. I could really imagine it. I just wish I could read you the whole book, but I cannot do that. I can just tell what I think and what I liked mostly. Like, I cannot describe the whole book or read the whole book to you. I'm just telling the small parts that really made me feel like, oh my god, it's too amazing. So, see, I can tell you a little here. Perhaps 10 meters to my left, that's left, the pale, empty stomached girl was standing, frost stricken. Her mouth chittered, her cold arms were folded. Tears were frozen to the book thief's face because book thief's brother dies in this chapter, in the second chapter. This book just starts with these things like death and all, because it's death, so obviously he is there for taking someone. That's why he meets book thief. So their book thief's brother dies in the train. So it was not so emotional at first. Here I guess it was not so emotional because that just described that how he met her, how he saw her. So it was just a corpse there, and corpse, a dead body there, and book thief was there, and the only scene I could see at that time was the book thief standing there, and book thief's eyes and her cold arms, and her crying, and there was snow, so the tears are frozen in her eyes, and the empty stomach that she has not eaten. So I I was not emotional at first at this second chapter because I was just going through this book, randomly. So I was not emotional, but this made me feel some chills inside of me. I just thought that this can go somewhere, because that scene itself, I am telling you about the scene so much, but really it really felt too much to me. Like, I could see her standing in the snow, so I just went on with the book because of this scene that popped up in my head because of the detailings. And then I got to the third chapter. I guess when I read the second chapter, I instantly got so curious that what will happen next, that I jumped to the third chapter. I can remember that I just read both the chapters in one day, because second chapter really made me very curious about this book. So the third chapter is Eclipse. The Eclipse is the third chapter. I really couldn't understand why the eclipse was named, because the deck tells us that he sees eclipses whenever he takes bodies and all, but I couldn't really understand it, the why the eclipse. I think I would have to read it twice to understand things. So let's start third chapter. So in the third chapter, when it crashed, three deep gashes were made in the earth. I have outlined these lines because I am rereading this book at this point. I cannot even reread. At first I didn't know I would like to talk about this book so much that I would make a video about it, but it just happened. So I hadn't underlined or anything. I hadn't highlighted anything before. I was just so curious. I just read it, and halfway through the book I got so excited that I was like, I want to talk to this, I want to tell about this book to anyone. So that's why I just started this video. And in the third chapter it's written, when it crashed, three deep gashes were made in the earth. Its wings were now sawn off arms, no more flapping, not for this metallic little bird. So here's a plane that has crashed to the land. And I just underlined this reading again this chapter because this is going to come later in the book. And when I read it later in the book, I was really, it was so amazing. I was like, you know, I couldn't say anything. It was just it just comes back and in such a smooth way that it make my jaw drop. I was really so excited at this. Like I never knew that this will come, and like I thought that somewhere it is gonna come, that I hadn't expected this scene to come like that. So there's a plane that has crashed to the land, and this part also I could imagine, but it was a little different from what I imagined, but it was really amazing what I imagined here. So here again a small note given in this book, some other small facts. Sometimes I arrive too early, I rush, and some people cling longer to life than expected. So it's talking about the, I guess, the pilot in the plane, and he is saying that so not death cannot come instantly, he has a lot of work to do, so he will be late somewhere. And also when he's so busy also, because when he tries to take away people's soul, they cling to it, they don't want to let go. Not everyone wants to die, they want to live, so they will cling to their souls. This is what death is telling us. So he will not arrive too early, he will take time, so we will feel the pain and all, we will cling to life. So this is what death is saying. And then we again go to the scene where the plane is crashed. A boy arrived first with cluttered breath and what appeared to be a toolkit. So a boy arrives there at the scene where the plane has crashed with a toolkit. A toolkit is in the hands of a boy, and this boy is going to come in that scene later, and it really gives me chills right now reading this. It's so amazingly written, this book. I cannot say, I have no words to describe this book. I feel so amazing for reading this book. With great trepidation he approached the cockpit and watched the pilot gogging if he was alive, at which point he still was. The book thief arrived perhaps 30 seconds later. So the boy there, when the pilot was alive, the boy is standing there. I can really promise you when this will come again. This is so brilliantly written book, I cannot tell you. It really blowed up my mind when the boy, I really didn't read this so truly when I was first reading this, but now when I'm going through this book again, this boy is really important here. So when the pilot is alive, that boy is standing there with a toolkit, and he will later be in the book with that same toolkit. You will see. The book thief arrived perhaps 30 seconds later. So then the book thief is there. I guess this is the second time he's describing when he saw book thief. I guess it is the second time. Years had passed, but I recognized her. She was painting. Yes, it is the second time. First was in the train when her brother died, and the second is where the plane is crashed and she is standing behind that boy. And he's saying that he recognized her. See, this girl has already took attention of death towards her. I don't know. I really don't know what it meant that death has taken notice of someone. It really. I haven't finished the book, so I don't know what can I say about death taking notice of a person. Like, how can death be attentive towards a human? I couldn't understand this. Why he was so interested in this girl. Why death would be interested in a human? Maybe I would get it in the ending. So next, from the toolkit, the boy took out all of things, a teddy bear. So the book of he had many things in the toolkit, but he took out a teddy bear, and he just put that teddy bear on the chest of the pilot. Pilot was alive, I guess, at that time, and he just put it on the pilot's chest, and I could just imagine it, that death is taking some person's soul, and I could just see that scene from far away, that the plane has crashed, people are standing like all around it, and the pilot is dead with, like, bruises and all. He is all hurt, and a teddy bear in his chest, and really This is going to be so amazing later. So I was talking about the teddy bear and the boy. That boy just keeps the teddy bear there, and at that time death arrives and he took the pilot's soul away. And it's just, I was telling about the scene that it was so amazing that I just, it was like I was zooming it out from seeing it from far away, standing up way too far away from that scene. So I just felt like I always see pictures in my head. So I really felt like I did see that scene in front of me. What I saw was really, I guess. So I was talking about the third chapter, the eclipse. So I was telling you about that I zoomed out the scene. I'm so sorry. There is so lot of disturbance today. Well, it will be every day, but I will have to go through it. I'm really very sorry. So in this third chapter, I said that I just felt like I was somewhere standing far away and I could see this scene at first when I read it. This in second read feels a little different. So I wish I could have told you this when I was first reading this, when I started reading this. Because now it really feels different to tell you because I am feeling like I'm giving spoilers or something. So when there was a plane crash, it was, what I saw was black and white. I really imagined it in black and white, and I really thought the teddy bear as pink. I saw Breaking Bad somewhere. So there was a scene with a pink teddy bear, so suddenly it popped up in my head. It really, I just imagined it that way because I had seen it somewhere. So I just imagined it in that way, that it's all black and white, just like a picture. I didn't even, picture it as a movie. I just pictured it as a sketch there and a pink teddy bear between it. It really, I think if you know what I am saying, you will feel, that pink teddy bear in black and white. It really looks a good combination. So that's what I imagined when I first saw that. So there, the teddy bear has also a role in this. You will get to know about this later. So like this, I just read three chapters, and on the third chapter also I really couldn't understand much. The second chapter is what got me hooked to this book, but I really didn't get first and third chapter at first, but I just insisted on reading it because of the second chapter, because I really thought if the second chapter is like this, maybe some book has something in it. So prologue was just a introduction of the book, so I didn't really enjoy it. I was just reading it because because I had to, because I wanted to know what's in the story. So I just read the prologue with no understanding, like words were, I would have sometimes, when I can't read properly, I have to read the one sentence 10 to 12 times, I guess, to understand it, because sometimes I just can't understand the meaning of what it's saying. I just read it and read it and read it, and I can't understand this that type things where happen, daily with me. I'm not very good with English, so I guess that's why also cannot really understand what it's saying. But I try to. I really try to. I guess trying is really important in this thing. But I really enjoy stories rather than language and all. If I don't know a word, I don't know it, right? What's a big deal? I should just get the main point, I guess, and that's the story. The writer is telling us to something to feel. And I guess if I can feel something, it's okay. I can reread it when I will learn properly. And even when I'm talking, I can understand. Maybe I'm less with words, I don't have many words and I cannot talk very good, but I'm really trying to make it good. So Yeah, it happens. So let's go to the book now. So there is the fourth chapter. It's the flag. We have read three chapters where I guess there was two times when book thief is seen by the death, and in the fourth chapter it is the third time that death sees it. And I just realized it that the three times whenever the death has seen the book thief, there is a death near her. That's why he is seeing her and he just recognizes her. Not the thing that she got attention is important, the main thing is he remembers her. How can a human have such a good story that death would notice that person? Maybe it's like many people die around this girl, so death is really coming through, But it really happens to all of us. I guess it can be that everyone who gets involved with that girl dies or something. That's why book thief is so much occurring in death's life. I don't know. So in this, it's written clearly. I see it. I was just about to leave when I found her kneeling there. A mountain range of rubble was written, designed, erected around her. She was clutching at a book. So I have read the story far enough to know what he's saying now, but at first I haven't. I just couldn't imagine these things. I just read it, but now I can see why he has written such things. That the book thief is standing on some rumbles, and she has a book in her hands and she is just on her knees, and that's when death sees her. I really feel it's so amazing that I can only remember this part now because of the scenes that are going to come in the book later. It made no sense to me when I first read it. I just read it. I didn't understand. I just read it to just what to read. Nothing. I didn't understand a single word. I guess a little, but I couldn't get. It was just introduction. So, well, I guess it's not my fault. It's just how the story has been told. It's just the way of the narrator. Apart from everything else, the book thief wanted desperately to go back to the basement to write or to read through her story one last time. So the book thief is having like craving to go to the basement of her house again, and she wants to read, she wants to write. It I see so obviously on her face. She was dying for it, the safety, the home of it, but she could not move. Also, the basement no longer existed. It was part of the mangled landscape. So there is a basement, and she read and wrote in that basement, and now she can't go because it's not there. It's really so much better when the story will come, but really I'm realizing it now. It's all coming back to the point. Please, again, I ask you to believe me. I wanted to stop, to crouch down. I wanted to say, I'm sorry, child. But that is not allowed. I did not crouch down. I did not speak. Instead, I watched her a while. When she was able to move, I followed her. So, death is telling us that he wanted to talk to that girl, that he was so, you know, upset with seeing her, um, so much went with her that he really wanted to say, I am sorry, child, because I guess you will get to know why he feels that way later. But he is just telling us that he felt to say sorry, but it's not allowed to death. As you know, everyone is going to die, so death can go to anyone and say sorry. Like, he cannot do that to everyone. It will be like, because he said he is fair. If he does it for one person, if he makes an exception, then it would be not fair. It's not, so death is not unfair. So it is not, it's not allowed to him to say sorry to a person. And It's given in the book later that death cares for children more. So here she was child, so obviously he is saying that feels. But as I told you, I don't think, from my point of view, that death will be even differentiate between a person's age. I really don't think so. But the narrator is death, so the writer through the narrator is saying that death feels for child and feels bad for children, but I don't think so. But it's just the writer's point. Instead, I watched her a while, so he was watching her and she got up and death is following her. It really is a nice sentence, by the way, that he followed her. So she dropped the book, she kneeled, the book thief howled. So there would have been too much that hurt her, that she just kneeled and howled. She cried. She screamed, you know. Ah, it's so amazing reading this again. This whole story is coming back. Her book was stepped on several times as the cleanup began, and although orders were given to clear only the mess of concrete, the girl's most precious item was thrown aboard a garbage truck, at which point I was compelled. I climbed aboard and took it in my hand, not realizing that I would read her stories several hundred times over the years on my travels. I would watch the places where we intersected and marvel at what the girl saw and how she survived. The books of the book thief are really important for her. So, in this scene, as I have read through the story, now this scene hits like really bad because she treasures her books, and now so much is happening that she just forgets about the book. She doesn't care anymore, and people are just stepping over her book and she cannot care about it. So much has happened that she now cannot care about it. And so the death is feeling so bad that when the book is, I guess it's some book that she has written her story, because he is saying, death is saying that he would read her story several hundred times. So maybe it was her diary or something. We will get to know it after a while. Do you also think that will feel bad for anyone? Like anyone? Too many people survive, from the worst, I guess. But yeah, reading the book, reading this book, she literally survived lot, a lot bad, worst happened to her. So let's get through it. So there is a flag. The colors is a note here, and it's written red, white, black, and symbols are made. So I guess it is the flag of that time, Hitler's flag, Germany's flag. So this girl who is here is the book thief, and we are going to know about the book thief story later. Now we have finished the prologue here. In prologue, we got to know about the narrator who is death and how he sees people. In this chapter, in these chapters of prologue, he just tells about himself and how he found and how he felt actually. Even though I don't think that can feel, but he describes here how he felt seeing book thief and people taking people's souls and colors, all these things are in prologue. And this only is a little introduction. As I said, that when I read the prologue, I couldn't understand the thing what is going on in the book. So the real thing starts from the part 1, the grave digger's handbook. And the title amused me so much, the digger's handbook, the grave digger. Someone is digging a grave and he has a handbook, And the part one is about that handbook, and it was so amusing. So first chapter was like building something, it was not complete, so I couldn't understand. It was just like I was seeing some bricks plastered over and all. But really, when I got to part one, slowly it was building up, and it became beautiful and beautiful each and every step. Prologue is just the preparation of into building that thing, it's just a preparation. But it's really good because I have reached very far to the book, and far end, it's just going to end soon. So I can tell you that the prologue will come later, and it literally gave me chills to read those things. My jaw dropped that how he just mixes up here and there those things. That was just amazing. So we will get to know about the part one later. So that's enough for the prologue. In the next part, I will tell about what happens in the part one, and I will try to do all the part one in one go. This is as much my energy goes for today. I'm finishing it on prologue. So if you want to hear the more and what happens to the book thief and get to the real exciting part, please stay with me. Ah,
बोलना शुरू करो. अब तो सुड़ुक सुड़ुक करके भी
तो ये वीडियो कैसे बनाते हैं guys? हमें वीडियो बनाना नहीं आता है. ओके. तो
बुक को बंद करो एक बार.
ना.
अब शुरू से फर्स्ट से.
मुझे ये भी याद नहीं रहा कि कैमरा यहाँ पे है भाई. मैं नजर बार बार यहाँ पे जा रहा हूँ. इधर है कैमरा. दिस इज बुक. यार मेरे को करना है यार. टॉक अबाउट दिस वन हियर. इट्स द बुक थीफ. भाई साहब मत